Good evening and welcome to another edition of Electoral Reform Hour on the NTA News 24 Abuja. Electoral Reform Half Hour is a program aimed at fostering inclusive dialogue among citizens from varied backgrounds concerning electoral reforms and constitutional amendments, and also enhancing public understanding and awareness regarding electoral reforms, and possibly compile and present citizen-derived recommendations to the National Assembly and the Independent National Electoral Commission for consideration. This program is brought to you by the Peering Advocacy and Advancement Center in Africa, PACA, with the support from the MacArthur Foundation. Effective electoral reforms are said to be instrumental in building trust between the electorate and the political system. When citizens perceive the electoral process as fair and reliable, apparently their engagement in local governance deepens, creating a more vibrant and responsive democratic framework. This trust is further reinforced by ensuring that the electoral bodies are independent and accountable, which in turn promotes a culture of transparency and integrity. As grassroots democracy flourishes through reforms, Nigeria stands to benefit from a more representative and equitable political landscape, where the aspirations of its diverse population are better reflected in governance decisions. How can Nigeria improve transparency, voter participation, and governance at the grassroots level? These are and more are the focus of our discussion on this episode of Electoral Reform Hour. I am Ezen Wanwagu. Thanks for joining us. Joining us tonight is Hon Shaba Ibrahim, a former member of the House of Representatives representing Lokoja Kogi Federal Constituency from 2019 to 2023, a seasoned legal practitioner, politician. He has held key positions including chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association, Lokoja branch in 2002, chairman of the Lokoja Kogi local government area, and chairman of Algon, Kogi State from 2006 to 2009, as well as special advisor to the governor of Kogi State on multilateral platforms. It's my pleasure to have you with us, Honorable Shaba.
Good evening.
Welcome to the program.
It's my pleasure to be here.
I was taking time to look at what you've done, in the course of your trajectory through the subnational to the national level. And just straight up, what are the challenges that local governments face in Nigeria today, particularly regarding this autonomy conversation in the electoral process?
Thank you very much, presenter. Let me say I've been assured that the answer to the questions is embedded in the question itself. The lack of autonomy. Most local governments are being run like appendages of the respective states' governments, and to that extent they lack independence, they lack initiative. No matter how brilliant an idea you have, you're unable to see it to fruition because you are at the mercy, practically at the mercy of the state government. If you imagine a situation where a local government cannot even initiate projects of its own but are subject to the whims of there's a Ministry of Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs that seems to regulate or oversee the activities of local governments. Most of the things they do have a convergence at that point where, they are put under serious scrutiny, thus obliterating the very aim for their establishment in the first place. Because if you're confronted with a commissioner, a governor who is so self-serving and does not think that you even know anything or you're worthy of taking decisions on your own, forgetting that the same mandate of the people that he got to become governor is what also took you there as a chairman of a local government, then everything is lost.
I think we are talking about overregulation now. Because I know the state houses of assembly also breathe down on. But when you talk about mandates, because I'm talking about the electoral process, mandates in the sense that those local governments chairmen or officials are elected or selected.
No, when I talk about local government, I'm talking about chairmen properly so called. I mean, as envisaged by the Constitution, and the Constitution has no room for unelected council chairmen. So my focus is mainly on elected council chairman. Thanks to the Supreme Court, now we're going to be by to all those contraptions. Some of us are part of it in the past, but it's with considerable excitement that we welcome that decision. So that I'm talking about the focus here is mainly on elected council chairman. And my understanding of the question is the challenges that local governments face, and the bulk of it stems from a lack of autonomy, lack of freedom to even govern at that level as you ought to be able to do ordinarily. If you look at the structure of the local government, it has practically, except for, it does not have a judiciary, the judicial arm, so to speak, but it does have a legislative arm, it has an executive arm. And all these arms are, they are closer to the people, and they see what the needs of the grassroots is supposed to be. But when you subject that which they see or know to the whims or to the scrutiny of somebody perhaps sitting in the state capital, then all is lost. I really want to see a local government, that can meet the aspiration of the people.
Hon Shaba, you've come a long way. You've been chairman of local government. Yes, you've been chairman of the association of
Algon,
the Algon. And what is topical in the public space right now is the conversation about how effective could these state independent electoral commissions be so how effective do you really think
state independent electoral commission I think they're except for a few states, and I think Kaduna is one, where you see the state independent electoral commission conduct local government elections, and the opposition party, a party other than the ruling party in the state is able to win seats. In most other states, local government council, the results are foretold even before the election. You know, it's like I've always maintained, local government elections in Nigeria today are not a popularity contest.
What was your own experience? How did you emerge?
I emerged under the same system, but with a little qualification. Let me say that when I served out my tenure as a caretaker chairman, appointed, every other political party at that time adopted me as a sole candidate. So I never went into contest with anybody. I remember the ACN had a candidate. They had even submitted his name to SIEC. They had to write SIEC to withdraw the nomination because
could it not be that they already knew that it was a no contest situation?
Well, if they knew it was a no contest situation, they were preparing to contest. They were prepared, and I think one of the things that really, I'm shy to say this, but I think what they saw in the first few months of my assumption of office actually made them believe that this candidate can be trusted, and all of them adopted me, and I had what you could call at that level a government of national unity. or of local unity, because I had every political party that formed part of that alliance had a slot or two allotted to them. So that way we had some seamless.
There is conversation around INEC conducting local government elections, and that's coming from the thinking that SECs are not transparent, they are not probably they are not able to effectively, they are not sufficiently independent to manage these elections. What are your thoughts?
Yes and no. Well, yes, but with some qualification. Let me say that a lot of people are talking about INEC because at the local government level you are able to, like I said, in some states, there's preparation ongoing for local council election. Now, I can tell you that in many, the apathy there is unparalleled. People are practically being begged to take up positions and whatever. INEC relative to SEC may be better, but I've always seen INEC too as a big problem when it comes to democracy. In fact, at a point I held the view, I don't know if I've changed significantly, that INEC was the biggest threat to our democracy from the way and manner they have conducted some of their elections and the way and manner. And I think the process of recruiting staffers, ad hoc staffers and everything, people who come, do all sorts of things and get away with it, is also part of the challenge. So I've always seen INEC relative to CX may be better because there's public
oversight.
Yes, a lot of people believe that because the CX have failed colossally, INEC may be better.
Yeah, but then we'll come back to that. We'll go on a short break now. When we return, the conversation with Honorable Shaba Ibrahim will continue.
The electorates, internal democracy, credible process, independent umpire, security, and the rule of law. These are the catalysts that propel free, fair, and credible elections. Join us every Saturday at 8:30 p.m. on NTA News 24 as we x-ray, dissect, and analyze the various components of electioneering and the prospects of democratic consolidation in Nigeria. Electoral Reforms Half Hour, brought to you by Peering Advocacy and Advancement Center in Africa, PACA, in conjunction with NTA News 24 and support from MacArthur Foundation. Keep a date with us every Saturday at 8:30 p.m. and repeat broadcast Sunday at 2:30 p.m. on our various platforms. Don't miss it.
Glad to have you back. We're still speaking with Honorable Shaba Ibrahim, former member of the House of Representatives, on the issues around the role of electoral reforms in enhancing grassroots democracy in Nigeria. We left it out at whether INEC should, but I know that, like you said, perhaps when we have a problem, we always want to outsource the problem. Rather than confronting the challenges that we have, the things that brought INEC to where it is, where there is a little confidence that it can deliver. Is
the failure of the respective states here.
So if we're able to do that, but the gladdening thing was the financial autonomy granted by the Supreme Court.
Yes.
How can the electoral reforms help to address the issues political autonomy? Because yes, financial autonomy without political autonomy may not grant the kind of things we want, especially in leadership recruitment process for local governments.
Yeah, at that level, you see, very commendable what the Supreme Court came up with. And let me also commend those who triggered that process, particularly the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation, and by extension, the current administration. It's something that has been tried in the past, but it ended up, it was more like motion without movement. But now that we're back here, you see, for this to birth sufficiently well and sit well with the people, there is a need for the Attorney General still, because I've been sure that all attempts at trying to secure political financial autonomy for local governments have been frustrated by the respective state houses of assembly under the influence of their excellencies, that's the state governments. And I don't see that abating anytime soon. So it's like the governors have, most of them have the state legislators in their pockets, and unless and until they are willing to let go, that process that you need to trigger via the legislature, that's to engender an amendment of the Constitution to grant unequivocal autonomy to local government councils, may never see the light of the day. So, and because the governors and the respective state assemblies have, so to speak, learned to shoot without missing, the people must also learn to fly without patching.
So when you talk about the people, do you think that the financial autonomy thing will guarantee greater turnout? Because at that level, turnout in those elections have been...
Yes, financial autonomy is a bait. It looks like, a lot of people are attracted to it because there's going to be financial autonomy. But in the real sense, financial autonomy without a corresponding political autonomy will end up at achieving not much, because the process of prompting up, the process that will bring up the heads of the local governments and the officials that will manage them is really key. As we speak, if you have financial autonomy, it's okay. If SEC is to conduct the election, everything will go in one direction. I can tell you that in one state, in some states, even the principal officers of some of the local government legislative houses have been penciled down already, even ahead of the election. That is to tell you that they already know in what direction the pendulum will swing. So the financial autonomy is a process, as far as I'm concerned. We are not yet there. If by the same token that the Attorney General approached the court, if such an action is instituted again at the Supreme Court to bring out clearly whether the true import of extant provisions of the Constitution and go beyond the ordinary meaning of those relevant sections, that's to bring out the intendment of the legislature, in that interpretative action may be able to get us to where we intend to be, to granting the local government the political autonomy that every one of us seeks, and
we're running to the closing times of this of our program, but I want you to look at quickly the conversation about holding elections in one day, all elections in one day.
In Nigeria,
it's gaining currency. I know there is Honorable Francis Waive in the National Assembly is moving, they're pushing for a bill for holding elections in one day. And why I'm asking you is because you have practical experience, not just as a lawyer, but as a politician who has also contested election. Where does this fit?
A beautiful idea. It's a fine idea, because you see, most times when you have one election decided, the bandwagon effect resonates on others. If, for instance, after the presidential election, most states, you hear people go to campaign and a particular party has won. Most people go and campaign and say, look, do you want to be in the opposition? I don't think it's worthy. It worths it. So by that token, there's some element of bandwagon that takes the electorate, moves the electorate in one direction. Nigerians are not too, opposition politics is not fanciful to a good majority of politicians, and it's because of this what Fayose will call stomach infrastructure. Nobody is willing to even take the pain for a little, for any long. I know people who must participate as a matter of principle. They have to be in the ruling government, and they will tell you to your face. It's not something that is hidden. So if you have an election, but I see a lot of logistic challenge. Logistic challenge with INEC. This INEC as currently constituted does not seem to me to be. We need to have a lot of restructuring and strengthening of their arms if that is going to happen.
And Hon Shaba, in closing, and I want you to round this.
I was just going to add one thing.
Yes, so let's take it together.
Okay.
What's your long-term vision for local governments, in Nigeria, and how do you think electoral reforms can help realize this vision?
One, I want to see a local government that is substantially, that is significantly free of influence from the state government. Not that there must be some form of relationship. There has to be some form of, naturally, there has to be some form of convergence where they have a common interest, but not one whose salaries are paid from the state level, like we have in some states today. The states take charge of the payment of local government salaries. You understand? The houses of assembly are oversighting the respective local government chairman and everything when they have their own local legislature. So that is my vision of because to engender development at that critical level, I dare say that there are more people at that local level than you have in the cities where the central government is.
Absolutely.
So if we do that, the local governments are, insecurity, poverty is staring all of us in the face. At that level will be substantially reduced.
Hon Shaba, somebody said that that the food comes from the local government areas, that there is no farming going on in Abuja.
The federal government has no land under the land
and that so the food comes from the local government. If people eat, insecurity will be.
Absolutely.
This is where we draw the curtain on this episode of the Electoral Reform Half Hour, and we wish to specially thank Hon Shaba Ibrahim, former member of the House of Representatives, for your time and contributions on the program. It was a pleasure having you to this evening. Electoral Reform Half Hour is brought to you by the Peering Advocacy and Advancement Center in Africa, with sponsorship from MacArthur Foundation. We are live every Saturday from 8:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. with a repeat broadcast at every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. on same station. You can also watch the live stream on www.com.nt, a News 24 hub. Contact us on our social media handles showing on your TV screen right away. Thank you for watching. I am Ezenwa Wagu. Thank you so very much, Honorable.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure always. Thank you.